As I rise up here, I'm hoping to do as well as that song, so we'll see. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Nice to have you all here. Thank you for having me back. It's always lovely to be here. And as Moselle mentioned, we had our lovely Easter sunrise service this morning. And it was just a beautiful, it was perfect weather. And without pointing fingers, we even have a newcomer because of it, so glad to have you. I'd like to start with something light this morning. What do bunnies say when they come home? Any bunny home? Thank you for loving me. I'm sure if my wife were here right now, she'd be rolling her eyes. So actually, Easter and spring traditions, they have some kind of similarities. We have spring traditions throughout the world, different cultures. You know, when the springtime comes, and it's to basically accept the renewal of energies, the renewal of the year, and saying goodbye to the winter time. And in a way, that's what we're doing with Easter, right? Now, Easter, as probably most of you know, is celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon, which follows the vernal equinox. So last Sunday, we celebrated Palm Sunday. Who was here for that, just by show of hands? Okay, most of you were here. And whether you were here or not, you know Palm Sunday is that entrance into Jerusalem, that triumphant entrance of Jesus into Jerusalem. And we in Unity see it as also as our own triumphant entrance into what we are to become. Now this Holy Week, we go through a process if we follow Jesus' life as we know it from the Bible, and kind of ending, well, partially ending with the crucifixion on Good Friday. Now, this may seem like a very extreme thing to do, right? But in Unity, we see the crucifixion not just as the crucifixion of Jesus before he rose, but a crossing over of our own negative thoughts, negative ways of being, things that maybe we do not want to hold on to anymore. So we can let that die, we can let it go. And as we let it die, we go through that process in the tomb of germinating. We don't see it happening necessarily. Most of us, we go through crucifixions, and think about the different crucifixions that you've had in your life, right? When something ended and you didn't know what was coming really next, you may have had an idea. Maybe you had a thought that this is what I need to do, but you weren't completely sure, because how can you be sure about what's going to happen in the future, right? Because the future is always tomorrow, right? We like to talk about in Unity about there's really no time, right? Because the only time that there is the now. If you're thinking about the past, when are you thinking about the past? You're thinking about it now, right? When you're concerned about the future, when are you concerned about that future? Now. And guess what? Guess what? When tomorrow comes, when are you? Right now, right? So this is really an illusion, and it's coming to me to say this. I actually heard this recently. To think about how the past, the present, and the future could be all in one. Think of it as a film, of a reel of film. You know, in the old days before they had digital, everything was on a film. And if you put that film on and you watch those first frames, right? You're watching them right now, and as they go by, and you're watching the next frames, those frames that went by, they're in the past, right? But they're still there in the same reel. And those frames that you have not seen yet come up at the end of the reel, they're still there, even though you have not witnessed them yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I hope it does. So yes, we go through this process in the tomb, and then come Easter morning, we hope to rise, right? Who felt like there was something new, something fresh this morning? Anybody? Wonderful. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a specific April 5th, Easter Sunday. Every morning that you wake up, that is your new Easter. Some of you know by now that it's been about 3 years. I went through a bout, as they call it, with cancer. And I've been free and clear for over 3 years right now.
Amen.
And ever since then, I've had a bigger, greater gratitude for life. Every morning when I wake up, and I think you've heard me say this already, I am grateful for a new day. I actually say that I am grateful for a wonderful, restful, healing night that I've had. And I'm grateful for the day that's coming so that I can be of service one more day. So yes, every morning to me is a time to rise, and it is a resurrection. And I know we all have that. We've all had those crucifixions, if you think about throughout your life. And you can think of something maybe not so morbid, if you will. A crucifixion could be just a transition from one thing to another. When you were a kid, when you finished elementary school, went into high school, finished that, you went into college, or you went on to work. And fast forward, even when you retire, right? That's a kind of crucifixion. Yeah. You've heard it said before. You've heard it said before that there's a high percentage, I don't have the specifics, of people that soon after they retire, they pass away, right? Why is that? Because they think that's the end. That's just a crucifixion to go on to the next resurrection in your life. I can tell you for myself, I officially retire as I like to call it, from my day job. It's almost 2 years now. And I retired because I knew, and of course what prompted this more than anything, and I had been thinking about it anyway, because I've been an officially ordained minister for, it's almost 8 years now. Yeah. Well, licensed, but ordained 7 years, let's call it. And after I went through my medical issue, I knew that it was time for me to move forward. And I'll tell you, I had my ups and downs at my job. But by the same token, I had a wonderful time there. I had 28 years there. And it's not so much the job, and the job was fine. I mean, I was an audio engineer, and then in my job, it was at the convention center in Orlando. And in there, we take care of the lighting, the audio, the cable system. And normally for somebody like me, if you're an audio engineer, you're either working in a studio or you're doing live sound. And I did live sound for the most part. Working at the convention center, I didn't have to haul around equipment, sweating and everything. I was inside a nice air-conditioned building. Sometimes it was actually too cold, and I was always walking around with a jacket. But everything was easy. Everything had been computerized for the whole building. Actually, I should say buildings. There's 2 buildings. And now they're doing an update. And I bring all that up because I didn't hate my job. To give you an idea, this past Wednesday, I actually went back to visit all the guys that I worked with. And as I was telling others about what had happening in my conversation with them, I would say, and we, like if I was still working there, we used to do this, and oh, that's right, I don't work there anymore. Because it wasn't a bad job, but it was a crucifixion that I needed to have to move forward in life, because I knew that I needed to go full-time into ministry, into specifically Unity Ministry, which has called me for the last 20 years or so. 21 actually, as I count. So I knew that I had to resurrect, to be able to pour myself completely into what it is that I am doing now. And thanks to that, I've been able to learn more about what I am supposed to do with ministry. And yes, I do not know what I'm going to do with ministry exactly tomorrow, the next week, or the month after, or next year, or how I'm going to do it. But I am just letting Spirit guide me. One of the things that you can think of during that time in the tomb is you're waiting for the Holy Spirit to come and help you resurrect. We hear in the Bible, of course, about that. An angel came and there was an earthquake and the angel rolled away the stone. Well, think of that angel as being that Holy Spirit that's removing the stone for you so that you can resurrect, to be who you are supposed to be. This morning, I was saying, remember that you are the light of the world. Who believes that? I'm feeling led to ask you to repeat with me. Let's say that together. I am the light of the world. Now let's say it like we mean it.
I am the light of the world.
Wonderful. Now, I'll be honest with you. I completely just went off script because it just came to me. But I want to read from the Bible, from Matthew 28, 1 through 10, where we read about the resurrection. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord, descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men, meaning they froze. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised. As he said, come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him." I want to point out something that I noticed while reading this. It doesn't say he raised himself. It says he has been raised from the dead. What could that possibly mean? It means that he had the help, if you will, of the Holy Spirit. He had the help of his own Christ consciousness that he was yet to come into, right? Because we understand Jesus was a very enlightened being, but he became the Christ itself at the resurrection. And guess what? What does that mean? He actually goes on to tell the disciples, to give you an idea, that when he was talking about my Father this, or he would speak to God and say, my Father, or Abba, he was telling also the disciples that it wasn't just, God wasn't just his father, but God was the disciples' father. And I like to read, and I don't think I've ever heard it spoken before in front of an audience like this, of the actual verse from the Bible that actually says that. And I'll read it to you. And this was about the same time where he's resurrected. And Mary had gone to the tomb. And then she didn't recognize him. He says, Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said to him in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said to her, do not touch me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. Now, I'm conflicted about that, do not touch me, because how come he tells him not to touch him, but then because Thomas didn't believe it, he lets him touch him. So, I'll leave it at that. But he says, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Think about that. He's telling Mary to tell his disciples that. So what does that mean for us? Aren't the disciples just normal, if you will, human beings like we are? And technically we are disciples of Jesus too, because we follow his teachings, right? So if the disciples, God is the same God of Jesus, that means we are also children of that God. And even Jesus told us himself. And I don't normally hear this. I don't think I've ever had any minister or priest or anybody say these specific words from this verse. So I want you to hold on to that. We, of course, here in Unity, we always say that we are children of God, right? Why not, right? Wherever we are, God is, right? So let me ask you again to consider your crucifixions. And if you're able to, if you can think of something and if you're willing to share, think of a crucifixion and a resurrection that you had. Just a couple of words, the crucifixion and then the resurrection, and if you can speak it loudly so we can all hear it. And as you feel up to it, go ahead and share. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Back there, Ben.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
When I retired
Can
from
you speak up a little bit?
yes, when I retired from the school, was so used to working and whatever and I started going through a whole lot of changes and whatever. And I was coming here and I asked Linda at the time that to pray for me and stuff like that. And she told me, don't invite me to your pity party. Okay, I didn't get it at the time. But I started saying something, and I said to this day, I am doing good and getting better. Amen. Because I know there's someone out there that's doing worse than I am. And I know I'm gonna get better on this side of life or on the other side of life.
Right.
And I started speaking it into existence.
Good.
And to this day, I am feeling good and getting better.
Amen.
Miss, well, there you go, Miss Davis. She can attest to it.
Yes.
I had gotten down to about 150 some pounds. That's just how bad I was going through it and whatever. And she said it just the other week, I am looking as Tony the Tiger. I just like to do and embellish a little bit. And it was stated to me today that I am looking, fit and whatever. And I tell people, yes, I am doing good and getting better. And I tell them I like to exercise. And exercise to me now, I tell them I found the fountain of youth. Exercise to me, because once I finish exercising, I feel good and whatever. So I know I have resurrection.
Wonderful.
Whatever.
All right. Thank you for that. So, to simplify for those who may not have heard, he went from having a pity party that didn't sound right. To affirming his health and everything good with it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Well, I can tell you for myself, and we've had all these, as I was mentioning earlier, all these crucifixions and then to a resurrection. And I mentioned one of mine, and I can think of multiple ones. I mean, just a quick, as some of you know, I'm originally from Colombia, South America. And right before I turned 13, our parents took us to New York. And at 13, I'm a young kid, I had my friends. I didn't want to leave where I was living. And I had to go to a different country to learn a new language, to be in a totally different environment that I grew up in. To give you an idea, just one of the thoughts I had when I got there. In Colombia, we lived in a house, and normally the front door was always open, and so was the neighbors. And all I had to do was look out from inside, and I can see all the way across to the back of my neighbor in front of us, who actually my best friend used to live there. And all I had to do was walk out, and I knew everybody, and everybody knew me. And I had all my friends around there. We moved to New York City, Brooklyn to be exact. Living in a building apartment. And one of my first thoughts was, I'm in here in this apartment. If I open this door from the apartment, I'm still locked in a building. And I have to walk out and even go downstairs steps to walk out the front door to be outside. It was such a big difference for me. And then I had another, of course I got used to it. And then when I moved to Orlando, I had another, I'm gonna call it, believe it or not, I think I had a bigger culture shock moving from New York to Orlando than from Colombia to New York. When I moved from New York, in Orlando, this is, wow, 36 years ago. And I remember walking, first of all, walking outside, and the neighbors are saying hello to me. And my first thought was like, whoa, what are they looking for? What do they need, you know? Because in New York, you don't normally do that. I mean, maybe it has changed by now. But another thing, I would drive down the streets, and I'm seeing all this greenery everywhere. All this grass and the trees, instead of just buildings. And I'm seeing cows and horses. I'm like, I was like just over the moon about all this. So I had a resurrection of sorts. And yes, one of the things that I told myself was that I was gonna have a better time in Orlando than I did in New York. And I won't go into histories and all that. But one thing led to another. One of the first people I met at work turned out to be a friend that I still have to this day. And he was the one that introduced me to a book. And the only reason he told me about this book is because I had part-time, I was selling Cutco knives, if you've ever heard of them. And he told me this book will teach you how to be a better salesman. And if you heard me say it before, it was See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. When I finished reading the book, I realized that book is not about selling, it's about becoming a better you. And that really got me started on this journey of getting myself better. I knew that I can work on, read these books. I started reading Wayne Dyer. I found A Course in Miracles through Marianne Williamson. And one thing led to another, and I found unity. Once I found unity, unity and A Course in Miracles kind of went hand in hand with me. And yes, they're not exactly the same, but I take what goes together and I like to expound on that. And now, because of that, I feel that I have been resurrected. And every day, even though yes, I've had my dark moments, every day is a new resurrection for me. And I hope you all feel the same way when you wake up each morning. And I'll backtrack before you go to sleep. Be grateful for any little thing that happened throughout the day. I'm reminded of Unity Minister Edwin Gaines, that one of the things she does is, before she goes to sleep, she actually says, if I have left anyone outside of my heart, please forgive me to that person, whoever it may be. So think about doing that at night, or just be grateful for whatever happened. That even if it's something that seems like it was a bad thing, what do you learn from it? Or what could you learn from it if you're open to it? And get some rest. And when you wake up, be grateful. And know that you can rise every morning and you are the light of the world. Remember that. Let's say that together one more time. I am the light of the world. And I would like to just leave you with a little Easter advice. Do not put all your eggs into one basket. I hope you only have 2 legs.